The relationship between men and mental health has often been called a silent crisis. On this podcast, we're breaking the silence. Welcome to Mental Health. It's time to talk. Here's your host, Allan Kehler.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. On today's show, we have a receiver from the University of Saskatchewan football team with the Huskies. We have a mental health advocate. We have a man on a mission. Yes, we have Yol Piok. Yol, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. It's an awesome opportunity.
So I know you talk about a time when you were in grade 4. You are about to run an 800-meter race, and then you throw up. And this theme of throwing up before a sporting event just continued.
It became a part of the routine. It was just like tie my shoes, all right, pull my shorts up, have everything on, and throw up. It just kind of became this natural thing that just I kept doing, and it took me a while to finally realize that it wasn't the best thing to do. But honestly, it's one of those things where you understand now what it was all about, and you understand how your anxiety plays into it, and then you start realizing like, okay, so I just cared about it as that much that I wanted to do that well. So it's a little bit of a coming a full circle thought now.
Yeah, hindsight is definitely 2020. But what I know about you, Yol, is you had a lot of pressures on you when you were in grade 11 and you made that Team Saskatchewan football team. Your mom actually had to forego a mortgage payment, right?
Yeah, so I played the entire Team SAS thing, and I get opportunity to play Team Canada because I was an all-star. And then that's where my mom finally was like, okay, money may not be that money is tight at the time, but she knew there was a way to get me there. And so, yeah, she decided to use a skip of payment option on her RBC thing. And boom, she used that for me to go play Team Canada in Dallas, Texas. And it's something till this day that hits home to me. And it's something that I'm for sure going to make sure I pay her back in the future for.
Yeah. Obviously, she believed in you. Obviously, she's an incredible fan of yours. How much did that pressure tie into the anxiety that you carried with you on a day-to-day basis?
It was basically the source of all of it, if I could be honest. It's one of those things that I understand that, okay, football is what I'm doing, and it's something that will get me to university and will get me into a place to hopefully play professionally, if it, God willing, kind of thing. And I understood that it was just so important, and that entire understanding very early just started creeping in. And that's a big thing that started to play into it, was just understanding that, okay, this isn't all on me. Like, my mom just wants me to go out there and be a kid, have fun with the game, and I'm gonna go to university and do what I can with it. But there's no pressure to be the savior or anything per se. It's all about me just learning from it and becoming a better human because of it.
Yeah, it's great that you have that insight now. It's unfortunate that earlier on that wasn't there, and that was the catalyst for a lot of those dark periods. And I know that Yol, you talk about April 5th, how that was one of those pivotal moments of your life where you weren't sure whether or not you wanted to stick around. What led up to the night of April 5th?
Everything from poor choices in finances to thinking that you could never, thinking that one mistake is the end all be all, that what you do, that bad decision you make is going to be the definition of who you are. And it took me a while to just finally understand that it wasn't. But obviously that entire day, it was just a whole thought process that, okay, this is the mistake that I make. This is the bed that I lay in, and I don't want to continue with it. And instead of trying to fight with it and thinking that there's a second chance that I could be better, I just kind of fell into the darkness that a lot of people have fallen into, and that absorbs everything around you and tries to engulf everything in front of you. And it did for a little bit, but obviously I have a great friend in David who I texted, he calls me, and then we go ahead and start this new journey that allows me to live the life that I am here breathing and saying these words that I can today.
What exactly did you say in that text to your teammate David?
Yeah, I can't even remember exactly. It just was something along the lines of, "I'm sorry for it was something along the lines of, "I'm sorry, but I just can't do this anymore," basically. And I don't even remember if I explicitly said it in the text, but David is somebody who is very, very emotionally intelligent, and he can see cues right away. So he could tell within the text that there's something wrong, and boom, he calls me right after. And that's where I start breaking down to him. Start breaking it down to him in the words that basically, yeah, I'm attempting suicide in this moment. And that's where he's ripping across the city and boom, saving my life in my words. That literally, without that entire moment and that culmination of me texting him calling me, and like rushing across the city basically as fast as he possibly could to be somebody there in that entire moment, knowing that it is life or death and treating it that way. And in the end, we get to this point where we're in the hospital and everything isn't all right, but everything is kind of in this moment of chaos, I guess you can say. I start seeing the light in the end of the tunnel now, because it's like, okay, you're surrounded by the people that you love. You think about what you just tried to do, but then you also think about who just came and helped you, who just came and made sure that you're okay. And then it's like this whole feeling of peace almost in this chaos. It's like, wow, I'm not alone. And it's like, thinking, why did I ever think I was alone in the first place, kind of thing. But then you also kind of chuckle to yourself, because you're just like, Jesus, life is absolutely crazy. Just having all these highs, playing Team Canada, signing with the Huskies, thinking that your life is about to be the best thing ever. That's what people say university is, but you're never really prepared for the times that come and the mental strifes that you have to deal with. So to finally get to that moment, it kind of felt like, okay, it really can't get any worse. It can only get better from that moment. It was peaceful, because it's like it can only get better with the people that are around you now.
Yeah, I mean, you had kind of experienced the bottom, and I
Hmm.
think a lot of people, you'll have a really hard time understanding how someone could even arrive at that place where they may make an attempt. And you talk about how isolation is really what triggers depression.
Oh
And
yeah.
is that kind of what happened there that night of April 5th, where, you combine that with the financial stresses that you were in?
It's this crazy thing, because it's almost self-isolation, but it's weird because you can isolate yourself in a room of 90 people still. I felt like I was putting up the walls around me to not let anybody in. So then I started just self-isolating myself and thinking, okay, all my issues are just going to be burdens, and people are going to think all the worst things about me, and all these what ifs that start to come into your mind about things that could happen. But then you have to come back to the root of reality and understand that what is that the people around you love you, and that what is any issue that you start bringing up can be solved, no matter how big or small you think it may be. And that entire moment was this self-isolation, and realizing that, oh wow, I put up huge walls, and that all I really need to do is just walk through the door that I made, because no matter what situation that you're in, there's always a way out for you. It's just understanding that whether you like that way out or not, it may not be all about that. It's just choosing to actually take that step and go through it. And it was one of those moments where I knew I had somebody in my life that I could for sure hit on a line in a moment's notice, and he'd be there. And boom, here we go. I finally walked through that door, and you finally take yourself away from the barriers and the walls that you set up, and you allow yourself to be vulnerable and be free in that sense.
Well, and Yoel, that's what I find really interesting, because you know, you, it was this fear, it was the
Hmm.
embarrassment that you say really prevented you from reaching out before that night with David, and you weren't sure how he would respond, and you were shocked at his response. And that's something that I just continuously hear from so many men, this fear of being rejected or
Hmm.
judged or being perceived as lesser than, and David just totally
Oh,
gave you the opposite.
oh yeah. It's I never understood love. Like I knew what love was, and I understand the whole unconditional thing and everything like that. But that moment and this entire thing, that was the first time I understood unconditional love in the sense of something other outside of my family, of course. So it's like this crazy rush of emotion that you get that's like, yo, I am actually never alone. Like, you know, that those feelings when you're walking down a street and you're not too sure if there's whatever is around you. That's kind of how I felt with my mental health for a really long time. But then in that moment, it was one of those like, okay, there is somebody beside me and he's actually been here this whole time. It's just me realizing it and finally understanding that just because you may not think it's there, that it still is there. And it's something that takes a long time because it's going back to those fears of the what ifs, and it's the thoughts of how is somebody going to look at me? Is he going to see me less than? And then you finally understand that David taught me that life is never perfect. So everybody will go through something, and that's just accepting it no matter what. And that unconditionalness is just all over it, and all his fingerprints all over it. I'm sorry, I feel like I kind of rambled there, but it's just unconditional love through David. It's just something he's taught me, and it's something that all men need to realize they have in their life.
Yeah, love. Love is a
Hmm.
beautiful thing, and yet that word can be terrifying. It can be
Oh yeah.
intimidating.
And it's funny because it's 9 days to Valentine's Day, so it's something that love just is. It's in the air, and I know 2021 hasn't been easy to start, but you can just see love slowly creeping in and starting to win. It's just this crazy thing that I see. Hmm.
Well, and I guess technically we are only alone when we choose to be alone. And the fact that you
Oh,
reached out is why you were able to ultimately be free. Now,
oh
I'm
yes.
interested how things then transpired in the locker room, because obviously other people on the team didn't know the magnitude of your despair. So how did
Oh
that all
no.
transpire?
It's it's shock. It's utter shock because you never with everybody around me. It's one of those things where they see me and they're like, "Oh, you're just happy and outgoing." But of course, that was my mask. It was just if the more uncomfortable I felt in a situation, the harder I would smile, laughter. I mean, the harder I would laugh, or the louder I would laugh, I should say, just to kind of avoid whatever it could be. But now seeing Yol as the okay, he wasn't okay, and there was something going on behind him. It's one of those, wow. I wish I could have done something, blah, 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 blah. It's always the what ifs. I wish I could have helped or something like that. Because everybody in the locker room was very, very sympathetic. Because it's like, oh, you never want to see your teammate, your brother go through something like that. So it's never anything that someone's like, oh, he's weaker for it. Because I originally thought that's how it would be, just because of the stigma around mental health, and then thinking in football, it's all about how hard you can push through any pain or anything like that. And weakness is just weakness in itself. But when I finally told them everything and the truth, it was just strength that I could feel in the room. I was like, oh wow. So through all of that, you were still playing ball, still working out, still coming to practice, doing what you can to make sure that you're okay and doing your best for the team. So everyone was just so loving and embracing with it because it's something that they all feel, especially when you're a group of 18 to 25-year-old men, some of the most growing pain stages of your life, basically. So for us to finally to start speaking about that issue and start kind of coming to the forefront of it took a lot of what's the word? A lot of strength and true strength from each other, because it's just trust too at the end of the day.
100%. You basically redefined what it means to be strong.
Yeah, there's a lot of people helped in the process, and it's one of those things that we're still trying to push it and redefine it because everyone understands it, and now we're in this place where we can start speaking about it. And through these past couple of years, you can just see the growth with each other because it's just going back to that trust, the love, and just allowing yourself to be you and not have to put on a facade anymore.
Exactly. And that must feel so liberating for you.
Oh, absolutely. Just because it's free. It's like you get to smile and joke, and if you're sad, you could actually just come in and be sad, and someone will smile and joke with you. And then you'll realize that, okay, my issues aren't that hard, and I can actually persevere if I start talking to them about it. And next thing you know, you start realizing that everything that you were scared of was actually the thing that you talked about that made you even stronger, and fear just became another part of your growing stage.
I'm incredibly proud of you for arriving at that place, Yol. I'm so grateful that you were able to find that freedom, to find that joy. And yet, even though you're able to talk about that in the locker room, some of your teammates went the other direction. I mean, you lost two teammates to suicide last summer. Samuel, his story became very well known. Like, I mean, just to give some context into Samuel, he did seek help at the Regina Hospital, and then he left after not receiving the help he needed, and he died by suicide. What was that whole experience like for you, having been where he was?
Anger more than anything, because it's like in it's like going to the doctor when you're sick and you have a cold and you're coughing and blood's coming out of your mouth, and the doctor says, "Oh, you're okay, just go home," and then dying. It's kind of that is the exact same way I see it with Samuel, because it's somebody who you can see needs help, and I don't know where else you go for help in a mental distress situation than the ER. And to be turned away, it's just it 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 highlights one bad situation and a stigma that still continues to need to be worked on and still continues to be spoken about, and shows that we aren't as far as we want to be, but we are still making progress. And Samuel is somebody who I know will not die in vain, and his life will never ever not be spoken of, because that should never happen again. And that case needs to be studied in every which way possible, because to search out for help in your time of need and to not get it is not just a failure in the eyes of the security officers there, but it's a failure in the eyes of everybody that's around it, because you take an oath to help people and to make sure that they're okay and that their health is taken care of. And to not do it in that circumstance is just an absolute utter failure. And it makes my blood boil, but at the end of the day, it's one of those things where you're going to use that to actually make sure people understand how important this is, and that we're not even close to the place that we want to be in, and that should never happen again. And that it's just sadness, because people look out for help and you never want to hear that. So it's something that just eats at me till this day.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, the stigma obviously still exists. I love the fact that you have put a voice to not only your personal struggles, but the challenges that you see around you. And then all of a sudden that led up to Movember, doing that whole video for Movember, which was incredibly well done. What was that experience like for you to have a camera crew come in and for you to have to go to that vulnerability in front of the public eye?
It was honestly so much fun, because opportunities like that, especially after losing two teammates. I also just kind of want to speak on Maddie too, because Maddie was somebody who, his life will never be forgotten through the scholarship that they go ahead and put into place, and just his smile, his energy, his chill demeanor, everything about him. I only got to know him for one season, but one season, I swear, is all you need to be around somebody like that. And to hear that too, it was just like a gut punch, because it's one of those things you never want to see somebody that young, somebody who has more life in them than what they showed. And what in the time that they showed, they did so many great things that it's like, whoa, could you imagine what could happen if they did that for 80 years? But now that they are, thank God, resting in peace, and now that we can go ahead and continue on, and Movember is where I felt that energy, and where the need to speak came from those two, where it was that understanding that we can never have something like that, where I don't want that to happen. And it may happen again just because of life's disgustingness and everything that comes around it. But to understand that it's okay. It may be scary when you're in front of the camera, but as soon as you start speaking, it's kind of this naturalness that comes with it. It's just like speaking with you here or speaking with my girlfriend at home. And it's something that I I practice forever and ever and will continue to. And the opportunity with Movember was incredible. Alternative Films came out from Vancouver and they absolutely killed it with the shot. I remember just sitting and watching them pull out a drone to just kind of watch me run across the bridge and thinking, oh wow, I feel like I'm in a Nike commercial as you're like doing it. You can imagine yourself in the slow-mo and everything like that. And so the whole opportunity was just crazy, seeing all the technical expertise that they had into it and the love that they showed into their passion, into the craft, I should say. And being a part of it was just, oh, it was one of those opportunities that I could never thank them enough for, because to have a place to speak about your story and a platform like Movember blew my mind away with the support that comes after. I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be that good at the end of the day.
I watched it a few times, Yol. The word that stands out for me that resonates, and you've said it a few times, is love.
Mm-hmm.
When I watched you and David, that's brotherhood. That comes through in that video, and the bond that you created. I mean, when we see another man go to that place of vulnerability and be met with compassion, love, and not judgment, that is the foundation for one hell of a relationship.
Oh, absolutely. And oh, I love that you say that, because it's love that has carried me through life and that will carry me through anything I go through in the future. And love is something that is scary. It's so hard to step into because it's opening yourself up and you don't know what's about to happen. You never know how they're going to take it, but it's just having that faith in it that no matter what sort of reaction it is, it's still going to be good because you can go ahead and control it regardless.
No doubt. And so here you are. And I know that one of the things that you are very passionate about is just putting a voice to men, to mental health, and possibly even exploring law, because the reality is that as a lawyer, you can make change happen.
Absolutely. It's something that I've seen. I should rephrase, because it was the beginning of my Husky career. We had some alumni coming in, specifically Rylan Hunter, and he was speaking about his journey through university and how he got into law. And that was the beginning stages of me just thinking about it, because I was like, oh, okay, so lawyers, they can go ahead and basically do anything that involves a big decision, I guess you can say. If you're going to buy a house, all right, you'll need a real estate lawyer. For me, immigrating from another country, you're going to need an immigration lawyer. So it's something that was always around me in my life, and now as grown up and gone through my whole experiences and seen the power of law, it's something that I want to pursue heavily. And it's something that I know can change a lot of people's lives, because there's certain bills and laws that you can pass and get funding for through the government. And it's a crazy world that can do a lot of good, and hopefully I can get into it.
Yol, if I gave you a magic wand and you could just go bippity boppity boo, what would the world look like when it comes to mental health and people just accepting it?
Ooh, bippity boppity boo. The first bippity would be well, first bippity would be training teachers and just getting first aid. Well, I forget what it's called. It's like first responders kind of get this training in mental health where they can understand and see different signs and symptoms. So for me, it'd be educators. That would be the first people that we go ahead and get them to kind of understand and see the signs and symptoms. Because when you're a kid, there are certain things you can see. There people talk about like anxiety being a stomach ache in a younger kid, and kind of seeing that and kind of starting to speak about it as an earlier age and just saying, okay, like your value isn't in all of your grades. Yes, we want you to do good and we want you to continue doing good in this, but don't put your value all into it. So kind of catching it early in life and getting their value systems situated where they understand that being a good human being out in the world and being nice to each other will always outweigh how good you could do in a class or how fast you can run in a gym class, and kind of understanding that in an early presence. And then through sports, just kind of getting everybody to fall in love with the team aspect of it or not even sports, just to say extracurricular activities. Because even if you're in band or if you're doing a play, and then just kind of getting that teamwork and understanding that this is how life is, that we can only get together through each other, and that teamwork will make the dream work. I say that in everything that I do because it's the truth. And then as these kids grow up, there's going to be that high school age where they start wanting to go into careers. So I'd really, really like to just have people shadowing them and kind of giving them different perspectives on life, and then showing them that, okay, if you want to be a doctor, that's cool, but it doesn't value you completely. If you want to be a plumber, that's the exact same respectable work as well. And so giving them those opportunities to see the various aspects of life and understanding that there's not one way to do it, and that there's no bad career per se or anything like that. As long as you're giving back to the community and helping out the best aspect that you can, that's all we can expect. So kind of getting them to understand that careers are a part of life and not your whole life. And then as soon as they kind of get into their high school back end days and they're graduating, and some people are applying for university, for trade school, some people just want to work, just letting them know that life is a journey. There's no time limit on any of it, and that you just got to enjoy it with the people that you're around and just love the opportunities that you're given. So it's like just kind of taking the whole K to 8 to grade 12 basically, to just teach you that your value is in you and in literally nothing that you do. We want you to do good, and we'll praise you when you do good and stuff like that, but we won't demean you and put you down when you're doing bad. We're going to help you pick you up. We're going to make sure that you understand what's going on through the world, and to not freak out so much when something happens, and to just kind of take that deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, and just understand that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, what would that look like if we all felt full and complete within? Because then we don't have to look outside of ourselves for what already exists. And the beautiful thing, to your point, education, number one. And I'm seeing this in so many schools. You know, I love that even in kindergarten, for example, there are a lot of classrooms who day one, they talk about breathing. Day one,
Yeah,
is they understand how fundamental that is to wellness. They talk about emotions, which is key. If someone would have given you this insight, you know, go back to yourself as you were preparing for that 800-meter race. If somebody would have said, oh, hang on, you know, this might be anxiety. What would things have been like for you if you had some of those insights?
I always laugh to myself big too, because it's like, wow, if somebody would have just came to me and been like, yo, it's okay. This isn't the end all be all. You know that, right? Like, it's just a race. You can go out there. You may be a little nervous. It's just anxiety. It comes when you like something, and just go have fun. It's what it's coulda, shoulda, woulda. But then again, I'm just thankful that I learned it at some point, because learning it is the whole important part about it, not necessarily when you learn it. But grateful, or you'll learn what anxiety is. It's a different game, because now you're playing with the answers to the test basically.
Yeah, totally. You know, Brad's chiming in here. He says, incredible words. Life is much more than your profession. No stigmas, no stereotypes. That is something I think that we can definitely aspire towards. And that's where everything that you're talking about, you know, it's like you give back to that boy who you once were. And that's what I admire. That's what I love. You know, you're taking advantage of each day. And like even now with COVID, obviously that has hurt your football career, but it sounds as though you are able to start that potentially again in September, right? Where are you with your aspirations and goals with football?
I'm still chasing the number one goal, the winning a van. So the team is working out. We're doing it as best as we can, listening to the guidelines and everything like that. So we're all just patiently waiting. Hopefully we can go to Quebec in May, but we're patiently waiting for that as well. If it doesn't happen, that's okay. We could play in September. Regardless, we're all just working out, staying in shape, making sure that the number one goal stays in our front of our minds and winning a Vanier. And I feel like the team has only gotten closer together because of this, but so has every other team, because COVID is something that we all have to battle, and it's just another obstacle that kind of puts teamwork into action. And we've seen it across the world, because as terrible as it may be right now, it's okay, because we're working together to make sure we all get out of it. And football is one of those things that we got to kind of put on the side and the back burner for now, to just trust the process and trust in everything that we're going through, and that whatever happens will come out and be better.
Yeah, you say it well. Last question, Yol. Today is the Super Bowl. Who do you got? You got Mahomes or Brady? Who are you going with?
It's old man Brady. It's hard as a Ravens fan, because there's those times when he was with the Patriots that he broke my heart many times. I could honestly say he has made me cry as a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, but that's all right, because today I'm going to cheer for him to get 7, because it's history, and we kind of need something to remind us of old times today. So.
Very true. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time, Yol. I love how you navigate through life, that you don't hesitate to put a voice to your experiences. You're done with the shame. And I wish you so much success. Thanks again for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. And when we're doing this together, I promise you it's going to be a beautiful thing.
It will be beautiful. Thanks, Yol. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Take care and be well.